You must live in the present. Launch yourself on every wave. Find your eternity in each moment. That's a quote from Henry David Thoreau. If your life is filled with stress and anxiety, if you're overcome with worry or maybe even some regret, you can feel completely debilitated by that. I know. I've lived that in my life for years. So consumed with when the next hammer is going to drop. So worried about what might happen next. When I wasn't worried about the next catastrophe, I was lamenting my actions from the past. Sometimes even regretting the fact that in the past, I was so worried about the future that I missed the opportunity in front of me in that moment, which is a little bit ironic, isn't it? Today, we're going to explore this idea of eternity and what it means for us living here in our time-bound world. How do we press on when we're waiting for the future eternity that promises someday to bring us peace, love, and joy? This is a great topic. I can't wait to explore it with you. So let's get started with that intro. Here we go. Welcome to Mental Mastery Moment. I'm your coach, Paul Desmond Adams. Think of this as your quick daily coaching session before you get back in the game of life each and every weekday. On Thursdays, we talk about what's beyond us, what's bigger than us, that infinite that is beyond us, but still accessible by us. Today's a day to be just a little bit curious. In each 10 to 15 minute episode of this show, I hope to help you live the life you desire and deserve to live. I want to help you live a life of peace and purpose, enjoying the people you love, performing at your very highest levels, and tapping into that infinite creative potential you have, all the while making life fun and pleasurable. Now, if all that sounds a little bit impossible, try it out. Come along with me for at least a week of episodes. I think you'll be surprised by what is possible. So let's get started now on your journey with today's episode of Mental Mastery Moment. There's one thing to remember on Thursdays. I don't promise answers, but I love the questions and the possible answers. But I do acknowledge I could be wrong, and that's important. I have this saying, I'd rather be in a room full of people with nothing but questions than a room full of people with nothing but answers. The answers, people, are boring. There's nothing to discuss. There's nothing to explore. There's nothing to be curious about. I say this to encourage you to set aside the answers for a moment. I'm not telling you to disown them or to throw them out, but just set them aside for a moment and be curious for the next few minutes. It's okay. God or our Creator, our intention, gave us curiosity because it's a valid part of living a full life. And I always remind myself, and this might be a good thing for you too, maybe not, but it might be. I had a slightly different set of beliefs 10 years ago than I do now. And 10 years ago, I would have sworn that I had it all figured out and that I was right. But now, I think differently. So maybe I was wrong back then, or maybe I'm wrong now. But 10 years before that, I had a different set of beliefs, and I swore I was right. I swore I had it all figured out. I argued my point of view with people when it came to spiritual stuff. That's how convinced I was that I was right. But 10 years before that, I had a different set of beliefs, and you can see where this is going, and I still thought I was right. But today, I realize I could be wrong, and I'm okay with that. It's okay to be wrong. The odds are there are a lot of things we get wrong. But if we only pursue the things we know are right, we'll never expand beyond what we currently know. So let that sink in as we explore something might be out of your comfort zone a little bit, but maybe not. I titled this episode, Experiencing Eternal Peace and Love Right Now. Now, the word eternal is defined as without beginning or end. And the only thing we have in this world that is without beginning and without end is now. This moment, right now. Also, this moment, right now. And again, this moment, right now, again. The past isn't eternal because it's in the past. It's ended. The moment we had now, that put an end to the past. And what I just said is in the past. It's not now. And I know that's like, your brain just kind of goes, what? Wait a minute. Hold on. Slow down. The past is not eternal. The future isn't eternal either, though it seems it is. The future has a beginning, and that starts right after now. It starts at the end of this moment right now. That's the future. So the future and the past are not eternal, but now is eternal because it's always now. Now is now. It didn't begin and it won't end. It is now. Eternity is fleeting. It's a moment. Unless you embrace it now in this moment, pause for a moment, even right now, if you can, and just be present in this moment. Think about internally. What are you feeling? What are you hearing now? Now. What's on your mind? Is your mind in this moment? Or is your mind in the future? Is it in the past? Bring your mind back to this moment. Now. It's fleeting, so you got to grab it when it happens. But it's so hard to tell when you're in the moment. Here's the best indicator. You're not in the past and you're not in the future. You're here now. Think about externally. What are you hearing right now? Are you hearing birds? Maybe people? Maybe a dog barking? Maybe it's something negative. Maybe externally, right now, you just heard somebody arguing. Maybe you heard a siren. Let your mind spend some time in this moment now. Being present in the moment is not easy. It's a lifelong goal of many monks and many people who do mindfulness meditation. We're always trying to come back to the now. And when you do mindfulness meditation, there's a little thing called the monkey in your mind. And that monkey's jumping from tree to tree to tree. And it's thinking about the kids, and it's thinking about dinner and the laundry and that report you need to do at work. Your mind is going to jump all over the place. That's why with mindfulness meditation, you come back to your breathing and you become present in that breath going in and going out. Or maybe you focus on something in front of you. Maybe it's a picture. Maybe it's a little something on your desk. And you just keep your mind and your eyes focused on that thing right there, right now. And at some point, you're going to notice your mind wanders off. And there's no judgment, and there's no guilt, there's no shame. You just bring it back into the now, into the present moment, to the breaths, to the painting. Maybe it's a word you're focused on. Maybe it's a sentence you're focused on right now in this moment. Thich Nhat Hanh recently passed away, and he had this saying. He called them bells of mindfulness. And he used these bells of mindfulness to bring him back into the present moment, back into eternity now, when he was walking through his day, when he was going about his day. Just as those thoughts remind you to gently come back to your breath, to gently come back to the moment, to leave that thought wherever it was and just come back to your breathing, back to your words, back to that object you are being mindful of. Start a practice where the things that rob you of peace help bring you back to the eternal now. Maybe it's a notification on your phone, a text message, ding. When you hear that, program yourself to stop, breathe, and come back into the moment. If that's something that robs you of peace, make it the trigger that brings you back to peace. And remember, when you stop and you hear that notification and you focus on the now, this moment, this eternity that is now, if you're mentally still thinking about the notification, you're not in the moment now. You're out there in the past because it just happened, and the past is not eternal. I know this is really tough to figure out, and I don't pretend like I've got it all figured out, but I love to explore it. Let those bells of mindfulness bring you back. Maybe it's a crying baby for you. Maybe you're a mom and you got a baby. And when you hear the crying, it triggers something and you're like, oh no, I got to go do this. Well, maybe those moments where the baby cries, you take a second to come back into this moment. Just breathe for a moment. See, meditation doesn't have to last a half hour or 2 minutes or even a minute. It could just be a moment of centering yourself, being mindful again. Let each of those things, those bells of mindfulness, bring you out of time and back into the now, into that fleeting moment of eternity. In this moment, there's nothing to regret because there is no past. In this moment, there's nothing to worry about because there's no future in this moment. In this moment, let the peace of now rest on you. Your beliefs were formed in the past, not now. Your biases grew out of experiences in the past, not now. Your pains were inflicted in the past, not now. Now is where your peace resides, right now, in this moment. And when we talk about eternity, some of us, our mind immediately goes to some place after we die, that eternal destination. There's a lot of religious circles. That's always that question. Where are you going to spend eternity? And with this understanding of eternity that I'm sharing with you today, you can see how some are living in hell right now. They're spending eternity in torment. Their now is filled with bitterness. Their now is filled with anger and jealousy. They're tormented in the now because of their actions. Some are choosing to live in peace right now, to spend their eternity, their eternal now, in heaven. Their now's filled with peace. Their now is void of the regrets from the past. Their now is without worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow isn't now. Now, if this challenges you, and maybe depending on your belief system, there might be something there that does challenge you, that's okay. This may not be for you right now. Right now. It may not, and I get that. I'm just saying, think about that. Maybe you still believe that eternity is coming somewhere in the future. It'll start for you in the future, and that's okay. But this is just something to be curious about. I may be wrong about this. I mentioned that in the beginning. But the more I dive into this idea, the more I explored this idea of the eternal now, I could see where some of my past beliefs were biased by those who shared those beliefs with me, those who I adopted those beliefs from. I had to just allow this to sit on its own without those biases and without that dogma. Maybe try removing some of the language that challenges you on this. Remove the idea of heaven and hell. Remove the idea of eternity. But just spend time in peace right now. Maybe that frees you up to do that, to drop the regrets of the past and the worries of the future, and to spend time right now. I know that's ironic, but to spend this moment in eternity without those worries and without those regrets. Just let it be what you do right now, without the triggering labels, and spend some time in the now, right now. I know. It's kind of a weird thing. It almost seems like this endless circle, but I want to encourage you to just experience it. So maybe not right now, but at some point today, you bring yourself into that moment, into that time, into that moment of now, and be at peace now, and let that now be your eternal peace. You can have peace in the now forever, because it's always now. I do hope that this helps you understand a little bit about how we can choose where we spend our eternity, where we spend our eternal now, in peace, with joy, with love, without regrets, without worries. I hope you'll take some time and experience that. It's a beautiful thing. Now, tomorrow I'm going to share a resource with you, and it kind of ties into what we talked about today. So please make sure that you subscribe to this podcast. And if you enjoyed this and it made you a little curious and made you think a little bit, challenged you maybe, but maybe it comforted you as well, would you leave a rating or review so that other people can find this show? I've just relaunched it, so trying to get that traction back underneath. I'm grateful because for 6 years, people have been downloading this podcast, and it's been amazing. And I know I've been hearing from people, but we're trying to get that traction again. And so when you give it a rating and review, that really does help. And I thank you so much for that. Even if you don't do that, I appreciate the fact that you right now, in this moment, spend some time with me being curious. And that's a good thing. Thanks so much. You're a wonderful part of my day. And as always, in honor of my dad, may your reach always extend just beyond your grasp.